All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Maddie here, and welcome back to Meta Monday, the weekly series where we analyze the Pokemon Pocket metagame and keep you guys up to date on everything going on in the competitive world of Pokemon Pocket. Long intro. The competitive world of Pokemon Pocket's crazy right now. The Pocket Mats Pocket Tournament number 8 wrapped up last weekend, just a couple of days ago. 750 people competed, even though we did not have a sponsor and the prize pool was a little bit lower than it had been in previous weeks. Just a massive shout out to everybody. I mean, it's incredible. I think that the, ranked not being here or available to us has really kind of given us the opportunity to just absolutely go nuts from the competitive tournament perspective, and not just us, but other tournaments as well. So today what we're going to do on Meta Monday is break down the results of this 750 player tournament. We're going to take a look at all of the deck lists, shout out to all of the players, and then we're going to provide, of course, my insights on what I believe the metagame is looking like right now, because things are developing and changing very rapidly. Before we get into it though, guys, listen, Pocket Mats Pocket Tournament number 9, Mega Masters, is this weekend. $250 in the prize pool. Again, this week, the prize pool is sponsored by a community member, so big shout out to them. Yeah, we have the greatest community ever in Pokemon Pocket. Like, we're absolutely insane. Go check out the Discord. Shout out to the judge team, the moderator team, the caster team, everybody that makes these tournaments happen. We're doing it still. We're just continuing on. I believe this is the last weekend, though, before ranked comes out. I suspect, that online tournament scene might, die down a little bit in terms of participation once ranked comes out, but that's totally to be expected. Anyway, go register. Link down below for PMPT number 9, Mega Masters. Again, $250 in the prize pool. Let's get into the final standings here of last weekend's 750 player tournament. Here it is. There you go. Okay, so listen. Let's break this down real quick. Shout out to Mono Outlaw from Germany, went 13-2 playing Magnezone and Oricorio. Shout out to him. First place, Magnezone Oricorio getting first place. We did talk about this a little bit in previous, weeks. Magnezone Oricorio kind of popped up going into that second week as kind of the new best way to be playing Oricorio specifically. I know a lot of people were very adamant to me that the, Absol Oricorio deck was still meta, but I was telling them that it really did struggle against a lot of the other decks that were kind of popping up in the metagame, or the new sort of, I guess, versions of the decks that were previously existing. So the Magnezone Oricorio deck really feels to me like the premier way to play Oricorio right now. There are some other options. Not only that, there was a Magnezone here, Verum here at 11th place, and another one here at 18th place. So definitely a pretty good performances all around for Magnezone, but it got the W. First place this week. Zach Wars, 96 from India, playing Hydreigon Mega Absol. This is going to be a very interesting Hydreigon list because it's actually playing 2 of the Leap Over non-EX Absol. We'll take a look at that in a little bit, but big shout out to him. 12-3, second place here, made it all the way to the grand finals. Parth Vader, another Absol Hydreigon deck. So Hydreigon did very, very well. Again, I think it's kind of the premier way to be playing Absol right now. Absol definitely not a bad card as many people think. My opinions on it were, I think that when B1 released with, of course, all of the Mega Pokemon, but so many other really strong Pokemon, Absol definitely benefiting from pairing with a lot of these Pokemon really, really well. Hydreigon is absolutely insane. It's kind of like the High Roll King. It's kind of like the new Dark-type Rampardos, but a second and third place appearances here. Shout out to Parth Vader, and shout out to, Hydreigon for being absolutely insane. Fourth place here, What the Sigma from the United States. Both third and fourth place players from the United States represent. He was playing Mega Altaria in DDE. Another top dog of the metagame right now. Indeedee and Altaria also actually got 5th place as well. PGX Xerox from Peru. So a couple of high placements for Altaria. No surprise there. Honestly, Altaria, one of the most consistent best decks in the entire game. NastCon playing Suicune Greninja, 6th place. You'll notice here that there aren't very many Suicune Greninjas here in the standings. The next highest is Mr. Wiggler here, or Wriggler from, from South Africa. He was 25th place. So, definitely not a great weekend for Suicune and Greninja. I think that, to be fair, the metagame is definitely shaping up to be not as friendly to Suicune and Greninja as definitely it was going into the second week. Kind of that rebound rubber band effect, and that's typically just what we see in the metagame, right? So Suicune Greninja was kind of seemingly the top dog, but going into this weekend, it was not the biggest story. It was not the most played deck. That, in fact, was Mega Blaziken and Heatmore. Honestly, probably one of the strongest decks in the entire game right now, was the most played deck. And as we see here, Bixie and Hector from Singapore and Spain both went 10 wins, 8th and 9th place. And those were the 2 highest placing Blaziken decks. But in between them was Elord from France playing Guzzlord Naganadel. He was the only Guzzlord Naganadel player, I believe, in the entire tournament, if not the only one in day 2. He made it all the way to top 8, 7th place. This deck is massively underrated. I really think this is probably one of the better decks in the entire game. But in general, people should definitely be playing this deck more. But 7th place here, shout out to Elord. We got some more, Mega Altaria, some more Magnezone here. There was a Giratina Indeedee deck here. Hosey from Japan, the highest placing Japan player, 9-2-1, 12th place, was playing Giratina and Indeedee. However, there's another one down here, FGR. I don't know how to say the name, from Canada here, also playing Indeedee Giratina. So Indeedee itself pairing up now with Giratina to form sort of its own sub-archetype and, really kind of emerging as a very relevant, deck list. This one here is playing Oricorio. So we talked about this a little bit last week, but this deck list is different. This is actually playing one of the non-EX Giratina and an Arceus EX here. So very interesting decks, but Indeedee itself is sort of one of the better Pokemon in the entire game, and it pairs really well with so many different things. The effect is just so strong. We're seeing it with Altaria, now with Giratina, with Oricorio. A lot of opportunities for Indeedee moving forward. And as we go down, we see some more Hydreigon, some more Altaria. There was one here. So Nachiko actually was 10 wins and 1 loss. So I think he was like the #1 seed going into day 2, I believe. Made top 32 though. Oh, my light just went out. Oh, what happened there? Did the battery die? Hold on. Can I fix this? Why did the battery die? My light, it turned off automatically. It's back now. I don't know what that was all about. Anyway, where is he here? I lost him. Nachiko from Japan, 10-1, so a great record. And he was playing, okay, my light just keeps turning off. I don't know what's going on with it. I'll figure it out later. My lighting's gonna be messed up for the remainder of this video. It is what it is, okay? My beautiful face is going to be disguised a little bit here. It is what it is. Okay. And he was playing actually, Mega Absol, but it was different. So like what we see now with sort of this Darkrai Absol categorization on Limitless, because Limitless does struggle here. A lot of people are moving off the Oricorio Pichu variant, and we're actually seeing things like Chingling and Tyrogue paired with Absol and Darkrai a little bit more commonly, right? So that's a very interesting deck. We'll take a look at it later. There was right here in 22nd place, there was a Dusk Noir appearance. This is definitely kind of fringe meta, but it can be a really, really strong deck. So 22nd place, we have Dusk Noir here. And if we go down to 30th place, there was a Jolteon here, Decidueye here in 32nd place. Definitely a tough weekend for Decidueye with how many people playing Blaziken. Definitely kind of a hard counter deck list here to Suicune Greninja. And it definitely saw a little bit of play, but was definitely not as well positioned as it was in previous weeks. Another Jolteon down here with Oricorio in 36th place. Shout out to all these players. And then if we go down, there was actually an Arceus here. Legendary in 37th place. So, Arceus is also a pretty good archetype. It's really not that bad. Buff now with some of those consistency supporter cards like Copycat and such. And that's the standings. In fact, I believe we had like 90 players almost in day 2 because we had so many people in the tournament. So that's the overall standings. This is sort of the landscape of what decks sort of placed in the tournament. One thing I do just want to go ahead and highlight before we get into the deck lists, because people might be wondering, they're like, oh, okay, so what does this mean, right? Like in general, Magnezone or Oricorio wins this weekend. Is this the new dog? Like, is this what we're playing right now? Is this F's tier? Is this the tier 0 deck currently going into the 3rd week? My, I guess, answer to that, if you're curious, is, not to overreact. I don't know if many people are going to play Magnezone or Oricorio, still over maybe some of these other deck lists, even though it did get 1st place this weekend. I just want to show you something really, really quickly. So if we go to Mono's games here, I just want to illustrate here. This is his day 2 run. These are the deck lists that he beat in day 2. Again, a perfect record, obviously single elimination bracket. You'll notice one thing, and that is that Mono Outlaw here proceeded to play 7 games in Top Cut. It did not hit a Blaziken Heatran once. So theoretically speaking, Magnezone or Oricorio is not a bad deck list. In fact, it definitely has a pretty good matchup spread across the board. But when you take a look at the data, this is a deck list that actually struggles into Blaziken Heatmor a little bit, which is crazy because it ended up winning the tournament where the most played deck was Blaziken Heatmor. But again, top cut brackets, once you get into a single elimination, it really comes down to variance in what decks you match up against. As we see his opponents here, Absol Hydreigon, Suicune Greninja, Absol Hydreigon, Indeedee Giratina, Altaria Indeedee, Absol Hydreigon, right? So he just dodged all of the Heatmor Blaziken decks, but it's not like he couldn't have won because he did go 2-0 against Blaziken Heatmor in day 1. His only losses here were actually to Altaria decks, and that's also something that this deck list maybe isn't super great into, is Blaziken Heatmor and Altaria. So, I would say he definitely got a little bit fortunate, right, to win the tournament, but he definitely played really well. So if anybody was curious, like how Magnezone or Oricorio ended up winning, this is how. He just sort of hit a bunch of matchups that are mostly favorable for him, I would say, other than right here in top 8 where he beat Xerox playing Altaria Indeedee. which is definitely sort of, I'll probably a little bit lucky to win that game, but in general, that's not a great matchup for him. So he just got, he just hit good matchups, and that's really what it takes oftentimes to win throughout the bracket. It's out of everyone's control. It just sometimes it goes like that. So I do think Magnezone Oricorio is a really, really good deck, and I think it's a strong choice right now. Probably your best way to be playing Oricorio, at least at the moment, other than maybe some Indeedee shenanigans, which we'll talk about later. But yeah. I wouldn't put like too much weight into it. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, Magnezone Oricorio about to run away with things. It's just a deck that ended up winning because of varying different circumstances, right? And that happens. That just happens in tournaments. So anyway, now let's break down the deck list. We're 10 minutes in, finally. This is probably what people were waiting for anyway. Let's break down the deck. So this is going to be the number one deck here at the tournament, Magnezone Oricorio, and this deck list here is very standard. It's got a little bit of everything that you would expect, right? We have the 2/2/2 Magnemite, Magneton, Magnezone line, which is unique in a metagame right now. And I think that Magnezone does have that benefit of not playing rare candy. In fact, really very few item cards in this entire deck list. And Magnezone might be, I think, the only stage 2 Pokemon in the game that just doesn't play rare candy. And the reason for that is that you have to go into the stage 1 Magneton to Volt Charge to set up your energies to go into Magnezone. So that's just sort of how Magnezone has always worked, because Magneton is such a strong card. Now, the reason why I think Magnezone is definitely good in the current metagame is because it has 140 HP, which is 160 with Giant Cape. And if you know anything about the meta right now, you're living an attack from effectively anything, right? So we are definitely in like a 2-hit KO metagame right now. And I think what we're going to see, and what we have seen this weekend, is that these single prize stage 2 Pokemon that are very good attacking Pokemon, Magnezone, Hydreigon, these are Pokemon that are exceedingly valuable in this new Mega Pokemon 3 prize metagame, right? Just because of the way that the math works. If it's a 2-hit KO metagame anyway, we would rather be playing a stage 2 Pokemon that's worth 1 prize that can, 2-hit KO or take 2 hits than a 3 prize Pokemon that effectively does the same thing. So it's just the way that the prizing works out. Oricorio is the perfect sort of front line for this deck. I think that there's plenty of decks in the game that can KO or get around Oricorio. Of course, Heatmor Blaziken being a pretty good example of that. But as we saw here, Oricorio kind of just does enough to give you some time to go into your Magnezones. Also Chingling, because Chingling's broken. So yeah, and I think that basically 2 Copycat is really the other only new inclusion to this deck list, but that's really all this deck needed to be way more consistent, which is definitely a really, really big deal for, Magnezone, right? Because this has always been a strong Pokemon, but it struggled with that consistency because, you have to go into your basic, and then you have to get your stage 1 and then your stage 2, and that can be a little bit inconsistent, but with double Copycat, double Research, it happens a lot more often than you might think. So this is a very, very good deck. It has been buffed. Definitely a well-positioned deck. I would say this is definitely like in the meta. This is a core meta deck currently going into this 3rd week, but I was surprised to see Magnezone win it all. I'm not going to lie. You might see some people comment down below saying, that his opponent maybe misplayed in grand finals. Like, listen, like stuff like that happens. You can always chalk things down to of playing better, but it really just comes down to the fact that in Pokemon Pocket, there are so many opportunities to win games, but also lose games. And the dice just kind of fall where they fall. And sometimes it goes like that, right? I would say that this player here, Outlaw, played very well throughout the entire day 2 of competition, but definitely had a lot of things go his way. And this is a very well-constructed deck list. So if you're interested in playing Oricorio or playing like a lightning type deck right now, this is kind of the premier option. It's a slow, kind of grindy deck, but Magnezone just does exactly what it needs to do. 2-hit KO Pokemon and live, 1 attack from Pokemon. Like that's just what this comes down to. And the other upside here is that if you're all playing all single prize Pokemon, which I do think is a massive benefit, again, in this new mega meta right now. So anyway, big shout out to him. And that's my rundown here. Next up, let's take a look at Zach Wars' deck from India, because this is also a pretty unique deck that we don't really see that often. This is going to be Hydreigon with Mega Absol, but the difference here is that we're playing only 1 Chingling and only 1 Mega Absol. So I would say the core of the deck is definitely Hydreigon, but we're playing it with Leap over Absol, which is effectively this exact same card as Heatmor, right? It has 80 HP, retreat cost of 1 for 1 energy. It does 30 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So the entire concept here is the same as like Blaziken, which is like we're playing this Pokemon, which, along with Chingling is a strong leadoff option. And on the back line, we have things like Hydreigon and Mega Absol to carry us through the end of the game, or like the latter half of the games. And I think that it's very strong right now. I think that the meta right now is almost entirely reliant on these sort of bench attacking Pokemon and then pairing them with Cyrus, because it just gives you so many more opportunities to win the game, especially in a meta right now where a lot of decks are kind of focused around these 3-prize Pokemon, setting up and kind of, chilling on the bench, right? So it's a way to kind of, press the issue and begin damaging those 3-prize Pokemon on the bench or the basic Pokemon before they evolve, whatever the case may be. Just a very proactive strategy, especially with Oricorio being something that's oftentimes just in the active spot. So I really like this deck. And again, double Rocky Helmet, just like the Blaziken Heatmor decks often run. And then we're playing Hydreigon. The cool thing about Hydreigon is that, yes, you can just attack with for 130 on your second turn. Like, Hydreigon's a broken Pokemon just from the pure like high roll perspective. So Limitless will categorize this as like Hydreigon and Absol, but really, which it is, but it's not really a Mega Absol deck. It's just a Hydreigon deck that utilizes Absol in scenarios where it can win you the game, which it definitely is a really good card at particular moments in the game. And that's what we've kind of seen with Mega Absol. It's definitely really splashable. It can benefit from a lot of other strong Pokemon that you can pair with it, like the Oricorio package, like Chingling, like Hydreigon. These are really good Pokemon, and Absol just sort of fits into these decks pretty well, but it's not really a Pokemon that's going to, do the majority of the game. It's not going to just sort of win without other Pokemon doing a lot and then coming in later. So that's sort of the whole thing with Absol. It has ended up being definitely a good Pokemon in terms of what it's able to do, but definitely not like, honestly, I would say Mega Absol is still kind of underwhelming, but like the one aspect of it is that it just can be in decks and provide really value, a lot of value in specific scenarios. You know what I mean? Like, this deck list without Hydreigon will lose games. And in fact, I kind of feel like that's what happened in Grand Finals. So you kind of just need something. Like, it just doesn't do enough damage. When you're playing Oricorio, then it's different, but most of the time you got to play with Hydreigon. So I really like this list. The Parth Vader's list, the third highest placing deck of the tournament, was playing something a little bit different, but very similar, where we're playing Hydreigon and Darkrai and Mega Absol, but no Chingling and no Leap over Absol, but we are playing double Dark Pennant and we're playing Dawn. So this is a pretty cool strategy. I think we're leaning a little bit more into the Darkrai tech here, which I do think is pretty cool. Dark Pennant is spicy. I don't actually love Dark Pennant. I'm going to tell people right now, I don't think Dark Pennant is that good of a card, but in the metagame right now with Copycat, I actually do kind of like it because it's a little bit better where, like, how do I describe it? Just like the flow of card advantage in the game right now is very bouncy. Sometimes one player has 10 cards in hand and the other player has 1, and then all of a sudden it can just fly, like it just flips, right? All of a sudden. So when you're playing, like in a metagame now with Copycat everywhere, Dark Pennant does feel actually a little bit more advantageous, whereas before, like, you were just playing like Mars and Red Card and hoping your opponent didn't just draw the cards they needed to. Now you can Copycat, you can Dark Pennant, you can Mega Absol. Like, it definitely feels a little bit more interesting, but you will note that this deck doesn't play Copycat. So I think that the Dark Pennant here is more of like a counterplay to just sort of the overall pacing of card advantage in the metagame right now. But I mean, yeah, it's Hydreigon and it's Darkrai. The Dawn tech to me is really cool because it does allow us to basically attack with Darkrai in given scenarios. But this deck list, I think, also kind of overperformed. And again, it comes down to Hydreigon to me. I think Hydreigon is such a strong high roll deck. You're going to win games if you get that turn 2 Hydreigon online. Like, it's just really difficult to win against an opponent that's hitting you for 130 turn after turn after turn after turn with this Hydreigon. It's just a really, really strong card. Also double PCL to keep Hydreigon at high HP. I really like it. And I think PCL was also a really good tech for this tournament because of all of the Heatmors. And as we saw, the Leap over Absol, basically able to just heal up that damage, the 30 damage that you're taking on the bench by, getting attacked by Heatmor and Leap over Absol and things like that. So a really cool deck list, like something that I also wasn't really, I guess expecting to see, but Hydreigon is just such a strong Pokemon that if enough people play it, some people are going to get lucky and just sort of steamroll their opponents, right, with Hydreigon, because it's just such a strong card. Fourth place here, the fourth highest deck list is What the Sigma, and this is the highest placing Altaria deck of the tournament. This, to me, is kind of the more modern evolution of Altaria. We're still playing double Chingling because there's still a lot of rare candy decks, whether it is Suicune Greninja, whether it is Mega Blaziken, whether it is Hydreigon. Like, there's still a lot of rare candy in the format, which is interesting because Chingling is everywhere. So what's funny to me is that the metagame adapted around Chingling by playing like one copy of a middle evolution and not playing rare candy Pokemon. Like, people are still excuse me, people are still playing Rare Candy Stage 2 Pokemon because they're so dang strong, but Chingling is everywhere. Altaria is unique because it does not play Rare Candy, so I think it has inherently a much more sort of consistent build to it than when you're playing things like Hydreigon and Mega Blaziken, where sometimes you just don't get the opportunity to go into your Pokemon. Absol doesn't have that issue, even though it's not necessarily as strong as something like a Hydreigon or a Mega Blaziken. It's way more consistent, and I think that's the upside. But double Chingling, one Indeedee, one Jirachi, and then, of course, something to deal with Oricorio, and that's the core of this deck list that we've been seeing. This deck list is playing one of the Do the Wave Altarias, which I do like, as opposed to playing one of the Sableye. The difference here is that when you're playing Altaria, or the non-EX Altaria, it's not a basic Pokemon, right? So when you Pokeball or when you Lycia, you're guaranteed to pull those Pokemon out of your deck list. And since we're playing Jirachi, Chingling, and Swablu, the only basic in our deck that's not a 50 HP Pokemon is Indeedee, so Lycia becomes a little bit more consistent, and again, thinning cards out of your hand, filling out your bench, a very, very consistent deck list, and we are playing Rocky Helmet and Double Cyrus and Mars and Red. So we don't need to play Copycat here. And again, the thing with Altaria that we've kind of seen is that the 130 damage can be a little bit lackluster, especially in some specific matchups. So most Altaria decks are playing either double Rocky Helmet or double Red or one of each. And this deck list here was playing one Red, one Rocky Helmet. I do think that extra damage modification is kind of needed when you're playing Mega Altaria, but I've compared this to like Circle Circuit Pikachu back from the original Genetic Apex days, just because this deck is so consistent. It really feels like by far the most consistent deck in a field of a bit of like a Hyrule, meta game with all of these sort of Rare Candy explosive decks. You know what I mean? So I really like Mega Altaria. It won, I believe, the first tournament, the Pocket Mats tournament of the metagame. Last week, it was Oricorio Absol. This week, it was Magnezone and Oricorio. So, yeah, I think just coincidence that, Oricorio won the last couple of weeks, but there's a lot of really strong decks in the metagame. Let's take a look at Nastcon's deck, which is, again, a pretty standard new age upgraded version of Greninja and Suicune. And I like this. He's playing one of both Froakies here. Again, I don't know why. There's literally no reason to be playing the 10 HP Froakie, then the 20 damage Froakie, then the 10 damage Froakie. I don't know. Yeah, just ignore that fact. He is playing, of course, 2 Water Shuriken Greninjas, 1 Greninja EX, double Suicune, and still 1 Giratina. A lot of people have been asking me, should you be playing Giratina in Suicune Greninja? I don't have like a direct answer to that, just because the data on Limitless is very jumbled. It's hard for me to really give my perspective. Basically, the only thing I have to say is that all of the highest placing Suicune decks over the last week are playing Giratina. So that's my only bit of advice there. If you're curious whether you should be playing Giratina or not in the Suicune decks, just know that basically all of the decks that are placing the highest are playing Giratina. So there you go. We've actually elected to not play the May in the deck. We're still playing double Irida, double Cyrus, double Research. So we're kind of electing maybe not to play some of that extra consistency cards, but playing this a bit more standard. Whereas I think what we've cut here is just 1 Giant Cape from the traditional Suicune deck, and in place of the Shifting Stream Greninja EX, which I do think is making the deck better. So we'll have to see. We'll just have to see how Suicune goes here. It did struggle this weekend. This is a deck that doesn't love a lot of the decks in the metagame. Doesn't love Magnezone or Oricorio. Doesn't love Heatmor Blaziken, and it definitely doesn't love Decidueye and stuff. So, this is definitely not a bad deck, inherently one of the strongest decks in the entire game, but this weekend specifically was definitely sort of the let's beat Suicune, weekend, and I think it kind of ended up being the case for sure. And then let's take a look at Elord's deck. This is Naganadel with Guzzlord. I love this deck list, guys. Take a look at the metagame. Take a look at the overall flow of things. What are we noticing? We're noticing that these Stage 1 Pokemon have been buffed tremendously because of Copycat. When you're playing double Poipole, double Naganadel, and 2 Copycat, 2 Research in your deck, you almost always, and I mean this, you will almost always get that Naganadel out early. And the cool thing about Naganadel is that it likes to go first, and that is definitely a big deal. Going first, we can KO a baby Pokemon on their second turn. We're not playing rare candies in this deck, so Chingling isn't very useful. Naganadel plus Nihilego does deal with Oricorio very, very easily, and this is just a very aggressive, fast-paced deck. If we lead Nihilego, if we lead Guzzlord, if we lead Celesteela, it really doesn't matter because we have free retreat with Ultra Thrusters. I really like this deck list. It is probably one of the best, or I should say, the most underrated deck, I think, in the current metagame. It's just something that we've recommended time after time here since B1 came out, but just not many people are playing it. And, I get it. It's not like a new deck. It's literally just Poison Guzzlord, but now we have Copycat. It's just like Magnezone, but it's like, now we have Copycat. These decks are better, and they're both well positioned for the metagame. I don't really have anything else to say about this deck other than that you know, start smacking them in the face early. And it probably does add up to be like a pretty decent strategy. Poison right now is really good because it lingers, right? Poison doesn't just go away unless you like PCL or whatever, or you evolve. So these mega Pokemon that are worth 3 prizes, like, yeah, like we're not maybe able to KO them, but the poison damage kind of ticks, right? And Guzzlord is broken. Guzzlord is a broken Pokemon. 170 HP, like this thing is living. It is living. We're playing double Lucamine. Very, very capable of just coming in and then hitting for 120, or coming in and then soaking up a hit, you know, poisoning your opponent, you know, getting some extra chip damage with Nihilego there on the bench, and then, you know, Tyrannical Holing for 120, or even like spamming Grindcore for a couple of turns and winning that way, just like Guzzlord always likes to do. So trust me, this is a good deck list. More people should play it. It is what it is. I don't know why. You know, play it if you want to. I'm just saying it's pretty good. The highest placing Mega Blaziken deck of the tournament here, Bixie in 8th place. Let's take a look at his list, because you might be like, well, okay, so Mega Blaziken was supposed to be in Heatmore, kind of the new hot deck, right? No pun intended, but its highest placement was 8th place. People are going to look at that. Trust me, I already know. People are going to see this and go, oh, it's not that good. I don't think that's the right way to look at things at all. Mega Blaziken in Heatmore was the most successful deck, I believe, or one of the most successful decks, maybe behind Altaria in day one, because it's just so strong and it's so well positioned. Its win rates against most decks in the entire game, including Magnezone and Oricorio, was very, very good. And this is also a deck that does well into Suicune. So this is a very, very good deck list. It was the most represented deck of the tournament, had a really good win rate in day 1, and of course was the most popular deck or most played deck in day 2. So lots of representation here. None of them really made it like all the way up into top 4, but again, variance and all of these different things happen in Top Cut. It doesn't illustrate the strength of a deck or the meta viability of a deck. So you got to keep that in mind. This is still very, very strong. I still absolutely love this deck. The highest placing deck here was playing 1 May, 1 Copycat. So we've seen this a little bit before. Some people are choosing to play just double Copycat instead of May. The big benefit, I think, moving forward for Mega Blaziken and other Stage 2 Pokemon is that they can play Lily. And I think this is something that's likely going to be a little bit more important moving forward, is that Lily is broken, okay? So Mega Blaziken, 210 HP, healing for 60 damage is a really, really, really big deal. That is effectively, so let's do the math here, 210 plus 60 is 270, right? Or yeah, and then 270 plus 60 is what, 330? So that's a lot of HP, and it's very, very difficult to 2-hit or 3-hit KO Blaziken if they are Lilying back to back. So we might see moving forward even an additional copy of Lily seeing play in Mega Blaziken, because I do think it's a really, really big deal. I honestly think the only thing that Mega Blaziken, that's stopping Mega Blaziken from just running away with the meta right now, is Chingling. So keep that in mind. That's why we're playing the 1 Combuskin. Chingling's still very prominent, still an absolutely broken card, but Heatmore pairs very, very well with Mega Blaziken, just like we saw with Leap Out Absol with Hydreigon higher up in the standings. So if you want my opinion on Mega Blaziken, it's still very, very good. It performed very well overall this weekend, even though the highest placements there was only here in 8th place. So just keep that in mind. You know, people don't care. Trust me. Like there's going to be so many comments that are like, you're just hyping up Mega Blaziken and I got 8th place. Like how good can it be? I can't begin to describe to people like what my thought process is. There's so many factors that determine the viability of a deck. Like, okay, so by a lot of people's definitions, Magnezone or Oricorio is the best deck in the game because it got 1st place. I'm telling you it's not. It's definitely a good deck list. It just got lucky. It's just where, you know, things fell. It just happened like that. But basically every deck here that is in top 16 are top meta decks currently in the game. But you know, Magnezone or Oricorio, Hydreigon Absol, Altaria Indeedee, Suicune Greninja, Poison Guzzlord, Heatmore Blaziken, like these are the best decks in the game. No surprise here. Where they are in top 8 or top 16 to me doesn't really matter that much. It's just the fact that they're represented. And if we go down here, again, bunch of more Blaziken Heatmores down here. Even in top 64, there's a bunch more, right? So I mean, that's just the reality of the deck list. It's a good deck. It easily could have won this week, but it didn't. It got 8th place. That's just how it goes. Honestly. Anyway, that's my rant. Let's take a look at Hosey's deck in 12th place, who was playing Giratina and Indeedee. So this is another interesting development. This deck list here is so strange to me. And in fact, I don't really understand how this deck is so good. I kind of feel like it literally is just Indeedee doing Indeedee things. Like double Indeedee healing for 40 every turn kind of eliminates the entire like pressure that Oricorio can put on. You know what I mean? This is all basic Pokemon as well, so Chingling's not a factor. And I think it really just kind of comes down to the fact that we can keep Giratina alive for a couple of turns, and then we just attack with Giratina until it goes down, and then by the time we're attacking with Giratina, we have a secondary attacking option in either Arceus, Giratina, non-EX, or Indeedee. So I think this deck is effectively playing just like Giratina and Darkrai was back in the day, but we're just using Indeedee and we're playing pure Psychic Energy so that we have the ability to double up on Giratina. That's how I am interpreting this deck list. I haven't played this. I didn't actually even see this deck play. I didn't watch any games of it, but to me, I think that's what this deck is. Pretty sure we're literally playing like Darktina, but instead of like the extra chip damage from Darkrai, we're just playing Indeedee to heal or do damage, and we're playing Psychic Energies, which to me does sound kind of broken. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like, imagine just like playing Psychic Giratina and healing 40 every turn. Like, that enough is probably just really good. So also Rocky Helmet and Double Red, right? So a lot of damage modification here. Yeah, I mean, we got to keep our eye out on it. I mean, this could be the next Darktina. Maybe not, but keep that in mind. Very interesting and probably a really smart deck as well. The Arceus here is confusing to me. This player was from Japan, Hosey. So if you're watching this video, if you know English, I don't know, comment down below. Or if anybody has any information about this deck, comment down below and let me know your opinions on it or your details about it. I would love to hear what you guys think of it. Next up, though, is going to be, let's go down here, FGR here from Canada in 14th place. This is the version that I was kind of expecting, and I did talk about this on Friday. This is the Indeedee Oricorio deck. So Magnezone Oricorio ended up winning, but this is sort of Oricorio with Indeedee. So this was sort of the Oricorio deck that I expected maybe to kind of pop out and become really relevant, but Magnezone winning now probably eliminates a lot of people's interest in playing a deck like this because we're just going to play Magnezone, right? Oricorio, still a good card. I think the whole concept here was Indeedee healing Oricorio, Giant Capes, PCL. It's basically staying alive forever, and we can just set up Giratina in the meantime. Probably not the easiest thing to deal with for certain decks, right? So that's sort of my concept here with the deck list. Probably still really good. It did really well at a recent tournament. I don't have anything else to say about it. Very fun, or not fun at all. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it is. But anyway, that's kind of it. Those are like the top decks in terms of the standings this week. So we're going to move into like the second portion of this video, which is talking about the metagame data and all of that information, which some people don't stick around for, but this is valuable info. Believe me, because there's a lot more to understanding the metagame than just taking a look at the decks at the top of the standings. Even though that is, of course, part of it, there's more information to take a look at. So that's what we're going to do. If you made it this far into the video, stick around. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I appreciate you. Let's dive into that metagame tab here, at least for a couple of minutes. And here we go. So overall, the most played deck of the tournament here is Mega Blaziken and Heatmor at 14, almost 15% meta share. It has a 50.5% win rate. People ask me all of the time. These win rates here are all relative, so every deck that you see here basically has actually a higher win rate than it really does, and I'll explain that here. If we go to Mega Blaziken and we go to the matchups and we scroll all the way down, we see that the record here is 9-41 for buys/missed rounds, right? So 41 losses are on the record here for Mega Blaziken decks that just are people playing Mega Blaziken that either dropped from the tournament, but didn't remove themselves or just didn't show up for games, right? When you have 750 people in a tournament, that's going to happen. So keep in mind, this is 41 losses on the record for Mega Blaziken, and it still had a above 50% win rate. So again, it's all relative. And you might be like, well, does that mean the data is not that important? I mean, technically speaking, the data, yes, is less accurate. But it's all relative because every deck also has the same hit to its win rate. So basically, take all of these win rates and just like add a couple of percentages to them, and that's the real win rate. But they're all relative to each other in the same tournament. So that's the reality there, right? So it's like, did Blaziken actually win 50% of its games? No, it won like 52%, 53%, but it's the same for all of the other decks. You know what I mean? So it's all just relative. Anyway, Mega Blaziken, higher win rate than Suicune Greninja, which struggled, Hydreigon and Mega Absol, which actually also struggled, but not higher than Mega Altaria and Indeedee, which again, I think the consistency of Mega Altaria and Indeedee, the fourth most played deck here. But if you combine all of the Altaria variants here, like down here, there was 11 people that played this version of it. 15 people played this version of it. Altaria is definitely still like the second or third most played deck of the tournaments here, but the archetypes get split up depending on which Pokemon we're pairing with Mega Altaria. But the win rates, though, Altaria will always have a very, very good win rate just because it's such a consistent deck. So, I think that when you're playing a deck, especially in tournaments, you have to weigh, how consistent is my deck in terms of like how often am I going to be able to just do what I want to do? And then you have to weigh that against how strong is my particular strategy, right? Mega Altaria is more consistent than any of these other rare candy decks above it in terms of Mega Blaziken, Suicune, and Hydreigon, but in general, it's not as strong because you can't just rare candy turn 2 and start popping off, right? So that's the thing here. Mega Altaria will have a higher average win rate, for sure. It always will, just like Circle Circuit Pikachu did back in Genetic Apex, but it's not always going to win tournaments because, you know, there's probably inherently stronger decks that might get just a little bit more lucky and then beat it in top cut, as we saw from the standings. So Suicune struggled from a win rate perspective. Again, I think that Suicune's matchups here just probably aren't that great against a lot of decks. It did go 50-50 against Blaziken, which is kind of impressive. Struggled against Hydreigon. And it also struggled against Magnezone or Oricorio, which is crazy. It actually went 7-5 against Decidueye, so that's a little bit scary here. But yeah, it's not as dominant in terms of its matchup spreads. It is very good into Absol and Darkrai, and it's very good into Absol and Chingling. But other than that, it kind of struggled across the board. So, you know, Suicune and Greninja probably wasn't the best choice this weekend. I think the meta definitely developed around it a little bit. Yeah, I mean, let's take a look at Blaziken's matchups again, because I'm kind of curious. So yeah, 50-50 against Suicune, Greninja. Against Altaria and Indeedee, actually 30 and 35, so not the greatest win rate there. 24 and 22, so about 50% into Hydreigon. 25 and 14 into Mega Absol Darkrai, whether that's with Oricorio or not. So very good matchup there. And like I said, 17 and 11 against Magnezone or Oricorio, so this has a good Magnezone matchup. Struggles a lot, though, here against double Hydreigon and Mega Absol, so I don't know what it's a small sample size, kind of a unique standout there, per se. Also struggles here against the Indeedee Giratina deck, which is probably also playing, and Greninja Oricorio, so these are other Oricorio decks. So I really like this deck, and I think that it's really good into a lot of particular relevant decks in the metagame. Definitely a staple right now. Will it be the #1 most played deck next weekend? Probably not, but it's definitely going to be up there, probably floating around 10 to 11 to 12% next weekend. That's my assumption. But yeah, everything else about here is, you know, it is what it is. Like, I think a lot of decks struggled because the metagame is becoming a little bit more condensed up at the top. You know what I mean? So a lot of decks that people are playing really aren't that good. And these are the decks that we put like in the B and the C tier on the tier list on Tuesday, right? Things like, you know, Jolteon or Oricorio, right? Going 29 and 49. Not a great outing. Greninja and Suicune EX. So this is actually Greninja and Suicune without Giratina. Yeah, it struggled, right? It went 31 and 43. So there you go. If we go down here, like Arceus was 50-50, even Mega Blaziken and Entei was 22 and 19, right? So the metagame has kind of come around full circle. Maybe Entei ends up also still being one of the best ways to play Blaziken. It was always really strong, but again, it did kind of struggle with Oricorio, but maybe that's less of a factor now. Indeedee Goodra struggled 13 and 25, a bit of a meme deck as it turns out. Hitmonchan, Rampardos, again, these are also like C tier decks. Victory Bell and Chingling, like these are like fringe, like off meta decks, if we're being honest, right? Like Vikavolt, like there was a little bit of a rise in Vikavolt Chingling, went 12 and 20. Ampharos struggling. I guess I really thought Ampharos would be good, but I think that the development sort of after I made that video was sort of in the opposite direction for Ampharos, because it was definitely specifically strong into Suicune, but all of the other decks that popped up in the metagame, you know, Ampharos definitely didn't enjoy playing against. So yeah, Mega Altaria and Chingling, 22 and 11. Mega Altaria is broken. Golem, 7 and 17. Like these are decks that, you know, probably aren't really, you know, Dragalge, 8 and 14. Guzzlord without Poison, 6 and 14. I mean, where is Poison Guzzlord here? Did anybody even play this deck? That's what I'm curious about. We can actually filter by win rate. And as we see, it's right here at the top. One person, literally guys, one person played Poison Guzzlord and they went 10 and 3. This is a good deck. More people should play this. It's gotten like top 8 at like 3 tournaments in a row. I think you should probably be playing this deck. And then here is that like poison, or not poison, but the psychic version of Darktina, right? With Indeedee. That one player went 9, 2, and 1. You know, Aerodactyl Rampardos, one player went 6 and 3. The 4 people playing Mega Altaria Chingling popped off 22 and 11, right? So yeah, this is interesting stuff to take a look at. If we go to like decks where a lot of people played them, Mega Altaria and Indeedee, by far the highest win rate for sure, and then followed closely by Mega Absol Hydreigon, even though only 12 people played it, and then Mega Blaziken right here. So again, like these are all like very small sample sizes, and then once you get to the larger sample sizes, you see that yes, Mega Altaria and Mega Blaziken were kind of the most successful, popular meta decks, followed closely, or I guess not very closely, but down here, these are the next tier of decks that struggle this weekend. Suicune, Greninja, you know, Magnezone, Oricorio, and Hydreigon and Mega Absol, right? So again, Magnezone won the tournament this week. I'm not saying it's a bad deck. It's just not, it's not like the best. It's not like a crazy tier 0 deck. It just ended up winning. That's how tournaments work. You know what I mean? So keep that in mind. That's kind of basically all of the relevant data. I guess we can take a look at the day 2 metagame. Blaziken was still the most played deck. Mega Altaria, these are kind of the top dogs right now. Both had good win rates, but Hydreigon, Mega Absol, I mean, went 17-8, right? So might have had some good matchups. Magnezone went 15-5. The 6 people playing Magnezone or Ikoria went 15-5 in day 2. Probably carried by the person that got first place here. And the Poison Guzzlord player, the only one, went 4-1. So like, there's a lot of interesting data. I would recommend that you guys go check out the tournament page and dive in. We'll talk about stuff a little bit more deeply as the week goes on. We'll cover some more specific, maybe off meta decks that did well this weekend. And in general, we'll cover things a little bit more in depth. But the metagame is changing. Definitely evolving, and I think that the single prize Pokemon are kind of taken over. They really are taking advantage of all of these mega Pokemon, whether that's Magnezone, whether it's Hydreigon, whether it's Leap over Absol, Heatmor, Naganadel, Greninja, Chingling, Jirachi. Like, there's a lot of EX single prize Pokemon that are very, very strong in the meta, and I think that if you wanted to be ahead of the curve right now, you would play something that incorporates those Pokemon, because I think mega Pokemon are really strong. But one of the things that the Mega Pokemon has done to change the metagame is buff single prize Pokemon. And I did say that this would happen, by the way, because I am the predictor of the metagame. I'm not actually. I just should tell people what I see. You know what I mean? I'm wrong about some things. I'm right about some things. I'm just letting you know what my opinions are and what my thoughts are. So that's what the series is all about. Shout out to everybody that played. Go ahead and register. 40 minutes. Where did the time go? Go ahead and register for Pocket Tournament number 9, Mega Masters. Are you a Mega Master? Go play. $250 in the prize pool. Absolutely insane. Gonna have another insane weekend, I would say. Also, I think Mega Pidgeot EX is coming out, so maybe that has a little, maybe that stirs up the meta a little bit. We'll cover it here on the channel if something relevant pops up with that new card. It is a promo. It's a promo event. So anyway, that's my bit of news here. Let's wrap up the video. Let's get into it. Will we do a tier list tomorrow? Maybe, probably not. I think that, maybe we'll take a little week off with the tier list update. I might break down a video tomorrow talking about maybe a specific deck, or maybe breaking down maybe like win rates and matchup data. Maybe that could be interesting. Highest win rates, who knows? Anyway, let's get out of here, guys. Peace out. Have a good one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you guys soon. And yeah, there's the video. Bye.